Hi, I'm Ezra Krieg. I'm going to be acting as your Master of Ceremonies today for this very important meeting about an opportunity to both help our religious community and also, most importantly, provide affordable housing opportunities for people in need. I was chosen as the Master of Ceremonies because Jan says I can be mean. And the way I'm going to be mean is I'm going to make sure that our speakers stay on time, because we don't want to dump you onto 95 too late today. So we're going to try to stay pretty close to our agenda. We're starting a few minutes late, but we're going to really stay with it. So I'll ask our speakers to respect the time that was given to them and avoid me having to make a dance in the middle of the room to embarrass you to end your talk. One of the other things is we're going to ask that if you have questions, we're going to hold those till the end. So if you've got a piece of paper and you want to jot a note down, that's terrific. But we are going to hold the questions to the end, and we'll try to accommodate as many of those questions. Or if we're not able to accommodate it, we'll try to get your question from you, get it to the appropriate person, and ask them to respond to you individually. All right, we all good with that? Mm-hmm. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to bring up Pastor Leroy Freeman from More Than Conquerors Life Center Church to offer an invocation.
Let's pray. Gracious eternal God, our Father, we just thank you for another beautiful day. We thank you for each and every one in this place. Thank you for bringing us together with the shared purpose and responsibility as we come together seeking ways to break the cycle of homelessness for many. Lord, you see those who are sleeping in cars, in tents, and on the streets, and you call them by name. Father, your word in Matthew chapter 25 commands us as your people to welcome the stranger and to care for the poor and the oppressed. And Father, we thank you for this Yigby program and everybody that's involved. We pray today for your wisdom. May the work we discuss here today lead to lasting solutions so that faith-based unused land can become safe, affordable housing, and a pathway out of homelessness that will help restore dignity, stability, safety, and hope to many. Father, we know that without you, we can do nothing, but with you, much meaningful change is possible. Therefore, we ask that you bless the work before us and all that will be discussed today. May all we do and say bring glory and honor to your great name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We now will turn the program over to Dr. James Green, who will give brief remarks, opening remarks to today's program.
Thank you, Ezra. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's good to be here today, but I'm feeling somewhat conflicted. I'm conflicted because I'm encouraged to see all of you here looking to assist this community in addressing homelessness. But it's a bit discouraging to understand what's happening across our state and our nation when it comes to the unsheltered population. Because resources are being removed from those who need it the most. And I think we need prayer. We need prayer as a community. We need prayer as a state and as a country. And so I am glad that we're in a room of prayer warriors because we need it now more than ever. And so as we embark on sharing some of the information that we have for you today, I just want to make sure that you know in leaving here today to continue to pray for our community and for those who are unsheltered and for those who could be impacted by the legislation that is moving at the state and the federal level, because we're going to need all the help we can get in order to address this issue. And we're going to need all hands on deck, including help from our faith-based community, to address this issue. This is the third session that we've hosted, really looking to engage our faith-based community, and not just the support services side, but also in utilizing their land to help build affordable housing. And we have introduced some of our nonprofit and some of our treatment centers to developers who are willing to work with our faith-based community. And we want to make some of those introductions here today as well. And so towards the end of the session, right around 5:20, 5:25 or so, we'll leave some time for you to network, to get to know each other, and to hopefully make connections so that in leaving here, you'll be able to put a concept and a proposal together and to work with the county and all of its partners to help move something forward. Last thing I'll say is we will provide more details in terms of the funding that's available. Right now, we do have some dollars for specific groups, opiate settlement dollars for those with co-occurring disorders. We have some ad valorem dollars for those who are serving, say, our veterans or our seniors or other populations. All told, is probably about $3.54 million that we want to be able to allocate towards the purchase of tiny homes. And we'll talk a little bit more about the process for doing that. For those of you who were there last week before last, when we met with our nonprofits, you know that there's a proposal that is currently out and people have submitted, and we'll send that out to everyone who signs in here today. So we were utilizing that process to get the proposals in, and then we could just shift the dollars to fund projects that we thought were good projects. But we're going to be creating as many avenues as possible to hear your ideas and to figure out ways to build collaboration and to try to get more affordable housing online. And so we'll keep you posted on that moving forward. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is turn it back over to Ezra. I'll be here to answer any questions that you may have, to deal with any technological issues that we may encounter. But I look forward to getting to know you and to understand what it is that you're looking to do in this space tonight and then moving forward. Thank you.
I know this was hard for James. James has so much to tell you. So I thank you, and I really appreciate you respecting the time. In all the doom and gloom that we are hearing about some of the changes that are happening with funding and with both from the federal level and the state level for helping folks who are unhoused, there was a little bit of light that came out of the last legislative session, and that is the Yes in God's Backyard legislation. And we are so pleased to have David Tulsis here. David is a very respected land use attorney, works very closely with a lot of our housing authorities, and is really someone who helps lead the battle to find housing for people in need. So we're very pleased to have David here and to tell us about the Yes in God's Backyard legislation.
I can use this. You can use this.
Let's see. No, I think that's.
Click that. Thanks, James. Good afternoon. Once again, I'm David Tulsis. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Weiss, Sirota, Helfman, Cole & Bierman. My office is located in Boca Raton, just a short drive down the road. I've been practicing law in the state of Florida for over 35 years, and I proudly represent many public housing authorities in Broward and Palm Beach counties. I currently serve as the city attorney for the city of Margate in Broward County.
I represent community redevelopment agencies and have had the opportunity to work with Corey O'Gorman and Suzanne Cabrera and Ezra, who's currently on the Delray Beach Housing Authority Board. When he asked me if I could speak, I really couldn't say no, right? Nobody says no to Ezra. But I made a presentation recently to the Palm Beach County Bar Association's Local Government Land Use Committee about Yes in God's Backyard. And that was about an hour-long presentation. What I did for you today, because unfortunately I have to leave early, is I've shortened this presentation. So we're going to run through the statutory provisions in the state of Florida, look at policy considerations, and then we're going to look at some legislation that's pending at the federal level as well to help address these issues. So if you could go to the next slide. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it's clear that money is a key issue in providing affordable housing here in the state of Florida. We used to have a wonderful mechanism for funding affordable housing in the state of Florida, and that was the Sadowski Trust Fund, for those of you who go back 10, 15 years. But our legislature, and I'll opine a little, our wonderful legislature in Tallahassee saw the pot of money and said, well, we can use this for other things. And we've estimated that as this day, there have been about $2 billion of funds that have been lost out of the Sadowski Trust Fund that could have been utilized to help with the affordable housing issue in the state. So as a result, one of those responses that the legislature has decided to enact is what we now know as the Live Local Act, which is now going through this legislative session. I think it'll be Live Local 3.0 that is coming forward. Next slide. Now, one of the big issues, especially here in Palm Beach County, is locating developable land. And I think that the legislature and the individuals who push for this legislation have identified a potential source of vacant land, and that is land that's owned by faith-based organizations. And specifically, identifying the vacant land and allowing those faith-based organizations to monetize that land and to provide housing at the same time. So in my mind, the concept is, we have vacant land as a faith-based organization. We have some aging infrastructure, maybe a worship center, a church, a synagogue, whatever it might be. So how can we monetize that land while at the same time provide affordable housing and improve our existing facilities that are so key to many of our communities here in South Florida? I pulled up this stat from Realtor.com. Across the United States, and it's quite a range, but there's a shortage of between 2.3 million and 6.5 million homes. And according to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, we need approximately 7.3 million affordable homes for low-income renters. So it's just a drop in the bucket, but every little bit counts. Next slide. In Palm Beach County, and this I pulled from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition's, they have district profiles based upon congressional districts. So I pulled this for the District 22, which is a large portion of Palm Beach County. So there are approximately 179,000 renter households in Palm Beach County with an average median income of $104,000. The average median income, in Palm Beach County is $104,000. And this was as of 2024, I believe. So if you look at what 30% of AMI is, that's $31,200. So that gives you a monthly rent based upon 30% of your annual income being about $780 a month. But when you look at what the actual fair market rents are, you're looking at about $1,800 in Palm Beach County, which would require somebody to earn about $35 an hour. If they're gonna work a 40-hour week for a 2-bedroom, it'd be $2,200 a month, and that would result in an hourly rate of pay of $42.81. So you can see how it's not very realistic when you look at these numbers where somebody's going to be able to afford to live in a rental apartment here in Palm Beach County if their average median income is $104,000. So what did Florida do in the last legislative session to help address this issue? And you can go to the next slide. And they've enacted 2 different provisions. One is for county government and one is for municipal government. So the provisions related to county government are found in 125.01055(6) Florida statutes. And this is part of the Live Local Act. So the Live Local Act was originally adopted back in 2022, 2022 or 2023, and that was to try and promote the construction of mixed-use affordable housing on existing industrial and commercial property. And they've gone through several iterations to try and help redefine the statute. And what happened in last year's legislative session, or this year's legislative session, was that the state legislature and the governor signed this bill, which provides, and I've highlighted the relevant language, that the Board of County Commissioners may approve the development of housing that is affordable, as defined in section 420.0004. And this section, including but not limited to mixed-use residential development on any parcel zoned for commercial or industrial use. That's the live local portion. But if you look at the next sentence, or next phrase, it says, or on any parcel, including any contiguous parcel connected thereto, which is owned by a religious institution, as defined in 170.2012, which contains a house of public worship, regardless of the underlying zoning, so long as at least 10% of the units included in the project are for housing that is affordable. So what's important in those statutory provisions is the fact that the property has to be owned by a religious institution, the property has to contain a house of public worship, and it is regardless of the underlying zoning that you could construct residential development as long as 10% of the units are for housing that is affordable. And the last sentence basically says the county doesn't have to adopt an ordinance to provide for this, that it's self-executing. And what's important here is that it says regardless of underlying zoning. So a lot of money is often spent with planners, such as Mr. O'Gorman, who need to go through a whole process of public hearings, of notices, to get property rezoned. And so while I haven't seen this specific statute applied, it does appear to me as if you don't have to go through a rezoning process. You don't necessarily have to go through a land use plan amendment process. That if you have vacant land that is owned by a religious institution that contains a house of public worship, as long as you dedicate 10% of the units for housing that's affordable, you'll be able to build that development on that property. And then if you go to the next slide, it's the same language, but this is in section 166, and that applies to municipalities. So, we have land that's in unincorporated Palm Beach County. We have land that's located in incorporated municipalities, such as Riviera Beach. But under this statute, under 166, the same language applies. So, just be aware whether you're operating in the county or you're operating in a city, that you could take advantage of this provision to provide for affordable housing and residential development on land owned by a religious institution. And the next slide, and as I said, there's no need to adopt an ordinance. So if a city commissioner, county commissioner says, well, we need to, adopt an ordinance to do that, you don't have to. I did have a conversation with, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name, and she told me Riviera Beach is in the process of adopting an ordinance, and that's to help make it more politically acceptable and to help educate the public as far as what is allowed currently under state law. Now, the next slide is the definition of a religious institution, and this is referenced in the statute, and this comes from Florida law. It's any church, synagogue, or other established physical place for worship at which nonprofit religious services and activities are regularly conducted and carried on. So if you have a facility that's surrounded by vacant property, you could, in theory, utilize this statutory provision to provide for that affordable housing. Now, if you look at the next section, which is the amendments to the Live Local Act. Now, the Live Local Act that was adopted in the 2025 legislative session became effective July 1, 2025, and that's when this section became effective as well. There's no sunset date. There is a sunset date for the Live Local Act of October 1, 2033, but there's no similar sunset date for the YIGB provisions that are in state law. So as of this date, there doesn't appear to be any reason why this would have to stop in 2033. Now, the big key is, and as you all know, what is the definition of affordable? And the statute specifically points you to this section, 420.004, paren 3. And there are different, there's affordable means the monthly rent or monthly mortgage payments, including taxes, does not exceed 30%, which represents that percentage of the median annual gross annual income for the households identified. And these subsections are for extremely low, very low, low, and moderate income families. So you can utilize all these different statutory provisions in determining if you're going to provide affordable housing, what income level you are going to have to meet. So if you look at the definition of extremely low income from Florida law, that's the annual household income does not exceed 30% of the median annual adjusted gross income for households within the state. So, if you took that slide that I had before, it was 104,000 in Palm Beach County, so 30% of that, so you're looking at extremely low income persons being at about $30,000. So how can you fit 10% of whatever development, residential development you're going to build to provide for extremely low-income persons? Now, if you don't want to do extremely low, then you can go to the next option, which is low income, which is 80%. So 80%, you're about $80,000. There you're getting closer maybe to that mark to help the firefighters, to help the teachers, to help the police officers that are working here. So, I know we're trying to focus on the people who are at highest risk of homelessness, but in Palm Beach County, we really have an issue with respect to being able to house the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, the people who drive the buses, the people who pick up the garbage. And so, we need to, somebody says affordable housing. Well, affordable housing is anywhere from 30,000 up to, as you'll see, over 120,000. So there is quite a range under Florida law. The next provision is for moderate income. So moderate income is 120%. So that's $120,000 annually. So that gives you about a $40,000, if you look at 1/3 of that, for being able to pay for rent on an annual basis. And then finally, the last section that's referenced is for very low, and that's 50%, so that's 50,000. So the importance of these definitions is that if you're going to try and utilize the provisions in YIGB, then 10% of the units have to be affordable. And so if you try and figure out what the income, the average median income is, and then see if you can fit extremely low, low, very low, moderate into those units. And you only have to provide 10%. So the rest can be market rate, but it's a drop in the bucket, I know, but that's what the state legislature has authorized for faith-based institutions that own property. Now, in maintaining affordability, if you look at the statute, under 166.041.518, any development that's authorized under paragraph 7A must be treated as a conforming use, but YIGB is in section 6. So we don't have to worry about non-conforming, conforming uses with respect to the development of affordable housing and residential development on property that's not zoned residential. I don't know how familiar you are with conforming or non-conforming uses, but sometimes you'll have a use, let's say like a pawn shop that's located on property that's been rezoned to residential. That property is no longer an allowed use. It can continue to operate as a non-conforming use, but if the building is destroyed, you can't necessarily rebuild it because a pawn shop wouldn't be allowed in a residentially zoned district. What they're saying here is that even though the property may be zoned for religious institution, community facility, and you're putting residential development on it, it's going to be treated as a conforming use. So therefore, God forbid we get a hurricane or we get a storm and the building is destroyed, you'll still be able to reconstruct that development on that property. So it's interesting that some provisions of Live Local don't apply to the YIGB provisions in subparagraph 6. Now, one of the big issues is how do you monitor affordability? And I am a local government attorney, so if working for a local government, if I'm going to have to approve a development on property that isn't zoned for residential property, and at least 10% of those units have to be affordable, then I'm going to make sure that there's something recorded in the public records, some type of declaration of covenant and restrictions that says that the property that is subject to the agreement will contain at least 10% units that are affordable, whatever that income range is. We've utilized similar provisions. I'm the attorney for the Lake Worth Beach CRA, and they've developed a lot of property that have had income restrictions placed on them because of the fact that we've got a lot of money from HUD through the NSP program. So it's not unusual to have some type of declaration of covenant restrictions. Florida Housing Finance Corporation, as well as the Palm Beach County Housing Finance Authority, they all use similar land use restriction agreements that provide for reporting requirements, that provide for record keeping and submittal of annual reports so that they can make sure that you've been able to utilize this provision of the statute, but that you've also got to have your feet, in theory, held to the fire to make sure that you're maintaining those units as affordable. The statute is silent as to the duration of any required affordability period. So you just need to be aware and need to work with the local government and whoever you may be partnering with in order to construct this affordable housing. Now, I will say that I know that a lot of faith-based organizations don't necessarily have the sophistication in order to put together a deal themselves, so I think it's very important, and Mr. O'Gorman will speak to it, that you try and identify a developer that you can work with that will be able to carry a lot of the water and hopefully pay a lot of the expenses that are associated with the development. Come up with a good development agreement so that you understand what you are going to be receiving in return for the utilization of your property, and making sure that you get, what you're entitled to because it is your property. If you're not able to do it yourself, I know, there are a lot of developers looking for vacant land in South Florida, and there are a lot of resources through the county that can assist you in making sure that you make the right decisions in looking at utilizing and monetizing your vacant land. Now, in conjunction with what the state of Florida has done, there's also been a Senate bill filed by Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, and the title is Yes in God's Backyard Act. And the goal of that bill is to provide technical assistance and grants for faith-based organizations, institutions of higher education, and local governments to increase the supply of affordable rental housing. The program is going to be operated through HUD, and they have a proposed appropriation of $25 million in 2026. Nothing's happened with the bill since it's been filed in, I believe, in September, but it is there. And I'm sure, well, I can't be sure, but I would hope that it would move forward. 2 minutes, okay. It also provides for challenge grants that would be awarded on a competitive basis to organizations that would help remove barriers to production and preservation of affordable rental housing. And the preference would be to applicants who would use the grant to preserve affordable rental housing for incomes below 60% of AMI, which is extremely low-income families, and for individuals at risk of homelessness. The challenge grants, the allowable uses.
Can you just, before,
Sure.
can you just speak to that $50,000?
50 million?
50 million, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's the challenge grants that's contained in the proposed legislation.
Okay.
So what they're saying is that they would appropriate $50 million to provide grants, loans for projects that produce or preserve affordable rental housing, for outreach and technical assistance for faith-based organizations, kind of what I was just talking about being able to identify developers and working with developers, and removing barriers through local policies.
So would that be pre-development cost?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
It just said it says in the legislation $50 million.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think there's a companion filed in the House either. So.
Okay.
So, and these days in Washington, nothing's moving very quickly anyway. So, while it's great to see, I haven't heard anything about how it's going to move. But I want to thank you for the opportunity. You have some new tools in your toolbox to be able to provide affordable housing here in Palm Beach County, to utilize land that would otherwise be sitting there vacant, to help improve facilities for faith-based organizations, and to serve the greater good of Palm Beach County. You know, I've been a resident of South Florida for over 60 years, and I've seen growth, I've seen the pain that comes with growth, and I think that this is a great opportunity, and I want to thank all of you for dedicating your time to the people of Palm Beach County. Thank you very much.
You understand why we asked David to come. Again, we're not going to take questions right now. If you have questions for David, if you write it down, I'll make sure, I'm his boss at the Housing Authority, I'll make sure that he gets the answers to you.
Yeah, what we can do is we can make sure that you all have a copy of the PowerPoint. It's got all my contact information on there.
Oh, fabulous.
And you're more than welcome to give me a call, send me an email, and I'll be happy to get back to you.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I know you said.
we're not going to take any questions. And you know, if I let you, then somebody does it. So we're going to do this this way. Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you, David. And especially thank you, David, for saying that knowing that he can't say no to me. There's a couple dollars that might be in there. I'd like to do now is to turn the program over to Dr. Green and Suzanne Cabrera, President and CEO of the Housing Leadership Council of Palm Beach County, to talk about a new initiative that is coming on board that I think you all will be very excited to hear about.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Cabrera. As Ezra said, I can't say no to him either, so, or Jan, or James. So, yeah, I'm a pushover, but I'm really excited about this. I'm also excited about the Housing Leadership Academy, which is going really well. And this will be similar in some ways, but we are really going to lean into helping faith-based entities develop any land they have or really understand the whole entire process. I know I go to the cathedral here, and I've talked to Father Gavin about it, and he's like, let's just start the conversation. It may take years, which it definitely will, but you know, we got to start somewhere. And then we have some people that are already doing this and some really exciting projects going on right now. If you happen to be at our Housing Heroes Luncheon last May, we had Jonathan Vilma, who's working with a local church, and that is the prime example of how this legislation can really help. They are working on a property that at most, if they had gotten the proper zoning, would have done 49 units, and they're doing 101 units, plus they're doing their sanctuary on the ground floor. And to me, that's the truest sense of the partnership. They're both getting something out of it. And Jonathan Vilma is a great guy, and he does social enterprises, so we're really lucky. He's a partner, which, you know, people who go in this cohort, that is our real goal, is to get you to meet all these great people that can make your dreams come true and really help you with this. So what we're going to do is start a cohort probably February, March, and really prepare anybody in the faith-based community to go through this process. And we're still putting it together and we have some great folks to really help us with it. I'm just thrilled to see people here and have people that have done this before. And we have a great effort going on in West Palm Beach right now. So there's so much going on in this. But basically, we'll start out on the curriculum. And the goal really is to develop capacity, and it'll be on both ends. This is new for a lot of developers too, but especially faith-based. And the first process is really that discernment. What do you need to get out of this? I know when this became a big deal, oh, churches have property. They told me they're getting calls all the time, but they really weren't sure what to do, and they didn't want to get taken advantage of. And we had the project, Jonathan Vilma's project, go through the first steps. And I'm telling you, the commission will not approve things that they don't feel were properly vetted and went through that process. And luckily, that one's shown as the idea. They'd been working together for a long time on this, had a great attorney, had their interests protected. But I've been told, especially by Commissioner Sachs, she's going to be looking for that. So this process will be really important. It's really sitting down, figuring out what you can do, the approval you need to go through. For this church, they needed a new sanctuary and they needed a source of income going forward, and they're going to get both. And for Jonathan Bilma, this is where his heart is, affordable housing, Trey Bell housing, and I'm forgetting the saying he has, but he really is committed to this. He came from Haiti and just has that heart where his parents said, you got to give back. And as a Super Bowl champion, he's like, I've done pretty well. It's time to give back. So we want to try to find you partners like that. So that'll be the first step. And really understanding how to get ready for this, how to get things in place. So when we develop this cohort, we'll have space for about 15 people, but we will need some decision makers attending these sessions. We'll try to do one day a month, and depending on the time we have and what I feel we can get in one day, 6 to 8 months, plus a lot of follow-up in the back end. And you're going to make so many contacts if you're part of this. And part of it, YIGBY, you've already heard about that today. And there's a lot of other interesting legislation coming up. I'm part of the Florida Housing Coalition, and actually a lot of people know legislation is written by other folks with an interest. So Cody Glazier, our legal head of our legal department at Florida Housing, actually wrote the legislation with the Representative Lopez, and they're doing a glitch bill already. So if there are things that aren't clear or need some defining in that, we're already working on it because, session starts next month. It's crazy. So in that one, there's a lot of things we'll go over in the topic, but really setting the stage and also making sure you understand Palm Beach County. We've done so many studies, and we really know what's important in the county, who needs to be served, and we're going to continue looking at that and really make sure you understand the system that's in place, the continuum of care. I go to the Housing Leadership Academy sessions. I've learned so much, and I've been doing housing for 30 years, and I've learned things I think will be really important to this. So, and that'll be kind of setting the goals at the end of this kind of session, whether it takes 1 day or 2 days. That's what we really want the faith-based entities to know is, what do you need to get out of this? What would be, your lowest level of something you'd accept, and then what would be shooting for the stars, like this other faith-based entity did with both income and units and a sanctuary. So phase 2 would really be, you've got the vision now. How do we take it to viability? What are the steps? And this is the really complicated part, and this is where you're going to need partners. We're going to have a lot of real experts in their field that have been doing this a long time in Palm Beach County. Explain really what's involved in this, how to set up a partnership, how to make sure you aren't being taken advantage of. I think that's really important, and you get what you need out of it. So that's going to be really how to structure those agreements, how to create a budget, how to do a pro forma, explaining the crazy world of planning and zoning and the entitlement processes, although YIGBY's really helping us out on the zoning thing. I'm very excited about that, and how to navigate that. The legal considerations, we'll have David on speed dial, I think, for a lot of this. Risk management, things like that, and really how to engage the congregation, the community in this process. There's a lot that goes behind it, and you're going to hear tales from some really excellent land use planners that will hopefully not make your hair curl, but it can, but how to get by it and how to use things like YIGBY and Live Local to make the process a lot easier. And then the last stage will really be you've done your planning now. How do we get this project off the ground? And this is going to be really important to refine a pro forma. A pro forma is really showing you how the finances are going to work, and when you go for credit underwriting, another really interesting process, what it'll take to get it through that process. Doing all the due diligence, what it'll take to, if they tell you have to have site control, you'll know exactly what that means and how you can obtain that. But this is for churches that do have property. But, we're defining that to see if they purchase property, how would that work? But owning the property is important, and the tax implications. This will take a legal team, a tax accountant, as they always say, a CPA, to really figure it out. But that'll be an advantage as well. And then operational considerations. Once you build these, the real work begins. How do you operate housing? How do you pick something that's right for you? Do you get outside managers? Can you do it on your own if it's smaller scale? And that's part of the sustainability and property management. You want these things to last. and really getting that development readiness portfolio together. And, you know, if people are ready for that, we will get it to the stage where they can really start building. And as I said, we have 2 projects locally, 3 projects that I know of that are really on their way with this. So I can't tell you how excited I am about it to really give this kind of overview. The financing part, that alone is complicated, but we can break it down. You can know the cycles, how to apply for them, how long it'll take to do that. So we'll really go, you know, from the beginning, soup to nuts on this, and make sure you feel well prepared. And then I'm applying for more funding. We have a partnership with the county. We have Jan, Faith in Action, our whole group's working on it. Talking to some other groups about especially the discernment process, and talking to some kind of bigger funders who I can't mention right now that will continue the funding so we can do some one-on-one mentoring and that all-important money you'll need to get started on this. It's not cheap to develop property, and you can't cut corners on it. So we'll really help you be prepared for that and really start working. I'll be working on those funding sources while we're going through this. So hopefully when you're at the point you want to start, we got some stuff ready for you. So you can start paying and partnering with people that can develop that property. But I am so excited. And we're going to have more tours and groundbreakings, and we're going to let you know about that. But in the meantime, I think James has all the information. If you want to make sure you're on our list, see Leslie, because if you give it to me, it'll get lost in my purse, and you'll have to hunt me down. But Leslie from the Housing Leadership Council, who's also a part of the Academy, keeps all that straight. And we have a lot of cool stuff going on right now that we want you to hear about. We have a policy policy committee that just works on reducing regulatory barriers and really looking at incentives. So we'd love to have you involved right now in the whole housing process. So look forward to working with folks.
All right. Ezra has me on the clock, so I'll be quick. If we're successful in this endeavor, there'll be 3 things that we'll see. Today, you'll have an opportunity to network and to get to know developers, land planners, tiny home builders, et cetera, and you can set up conversations, partner with them. 2, we'll have faith-based organizations who will sign in and respond when we send out information about the cohort that we're looking to develop, so that we can kind of hold your hands and come up with a toolkit that can be used moving forward. And 3, we'll have proposals that are submitted for projects so that we can consider them for funding. That's what we're looking for. That's why you're here today, and we're really hopeful that we'll be successful. A couple of other things that I'll mention. Number 1, we're already aware of a jurisdiction in Florida, I think it's Tampa, that has utilized this legislation. And so they've already utilized YIGB to move a project forward. And so we're all about bringing individuals here so that you can ask them questions and learn from their experiences. And certainly, if there's an opportunity to do so, we'll do that as well. The second thing is, as a county, we're interested in that low and very low income portion, those who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. And so anything that you submit for consideration, just know that that is going to need to be included. And then all of the provisions, the length of time that, like the restrictions will be, what would happen if you sell the units and how does that work? All of those things will be wrapped up in the proposal and the consideration thereafter. And then the other thing is that David mentioned something very important. One of the biggest barriers that we often see, especially with nonprofits and faith-based, is a pre-development cost. Who's going to pay for, the site planning and all of those things that comes along with it? And so I didn't know that there was legislation that was introduced to help assist with that. So I would encourage all of you who are interested in learning more or interested in talking to legislators about that to find out about Palm Beach County Day. I don't know if there are any slots available. Some of you are probably coming, but that is the opportunity for us to sit down with those legislators and those individuals to encourage them to move that forward, because it could be helpful with each of your endeavors here locally. So thank you very much for being here. And big kudos to our Housing Leadership Academy members. Raise your hand if you're a participant. Oh, great. They actually have a project dealing with YIGBY. I don't know if we'll have an opportunity to hear more about that today, but they're partnering with us to facilitate this session along with Faith in Action. So we're really excited to have you here and to help that project materialize. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. The development process is very complicated. And one of the things you need when you're building is a guide. And I happen to have had Corey O'Gorman as a guide in a project that I did on Tamarind. What did we do, about 6 years ago? Yep. And I have to tell you, Corey's phenomenal. He is phenomenal. He's a good mentor. He's a good friend. And he's also someone that you can yell at and he'll go, everything will be okay, which is always important. So we wanted to have Corey here to talk about what does a planner do, how do they work with you, and why it's important to get someone like a planner involved in your project. So Corey O'Gorman.
Thank you, Ezra, for such a nice introduction. My name's Corey O'Gorman. I'm a land planner and project manager. I've had my own practice for about 20 years in Palm Beach County, working for nonprofits, for-profits, and governmental entities. And what I was asked to do is talk a little bit about the planning process. I don't have a PowerPoint.
Okay.
I have some prepared remarks because I really don't talk about the process with folks very often. And I wanted to be sure that I was touching on everything that at least I think is relevant to tonight's presentation. And one of the things that I wanted to give a big picture, brief overview on is the land development process, including zoning and land use navigation. And that's with sort of YIGBY aside, without considering that YIGBY would enable religious institutions to develop regardless of the underlying zoning, which is huge, by the way. I mean, that is a very important element of that legislation, because the land use process and changing land use designations, changing zoning is very discretionary and is often very difficult to do. So I wanted to talk about that general process from a big picture perspective, just to give you a flavor for how it all comes together, as well as some touching on project financing, contract negotiations, and working with an owner's representative. And to provide some background on owner's representative, that is a role that is a member of the development team that provides project management services to the owner of the project, overseeing the process and managing the development team members. Those project management services can focus on a part of the development process, such as obtaining the approvals. If it was just getting a site plan approval, for instance, the owner's rep could just work with you to get through that process. Or the owner's representative could work with an owner from really concept through completion, from where you're looking for the land, and in the case of the scenario that we're talking about today, where the religious institution owns the land, it's part of the asset of the religious institution. You're really trying to figure out, what can I do on that property? How can I make a project work there? So that's really what I want to talk about in a general sense this afternoon. And from my perspective as an owner's rep, the things that I think will help a project to be successful are, first of all, establishing realistic goals. And that's including evaluating project feasibility that Suzanne touched on, preparing initial budgets and schedules. And the important thing about that at the very beginning is to understand that if I generally know what I can build there, if I can build 60 units, for instance, what is the ballpark cost going to be, and how long is it going to take the project to get approved? Because then you can figure out what's my pre-development cost going to be, what's my construction loan going to be, and when is the construction loan going to get taken out by permanent financing. The second is conducting the necessary research to ensure that the project is feasible. The next is assembling the right team to meet the needs of the project, and of course, this is where, as Suzanne pointed out, is potentially where a religious institution would consider a development partner and determine the feasibility of engaging a development partner that really knows the process, that's gone through it before, and can work with you side by side on making the project work. The owner's rep also maintains clear lines of communication and decision making. And finally is that role in the development team that has to be aggressive and persistent in pursuit of project completion. Regarding the project itself, there are major milestones, including due diligence, feasibility, obtaining the necessary entitlements, YIGBY aside, assisting to obtain and manage the financing through the construction of the project, completing the design, obtaining necessary permits, completing the construction, and obtaining the certificate of occupancy, and then turning it over to the owner for its intended use. And that's, once again, Suzanne touched on a lot of the things that are key to the process, including, okay, now I have something built, I have the 60 or 80 unit project built, how are we going to manage it? How are we going to rent it up? Who's going to deal with the tenants on a regular basis? So the first step is the due diligence feasibility. And some of the work that an owner's rep can do are things like the regulatory evaluation. Once again, YIGBY aside, if I need to rezone, if there's a land use amendment that's needed, what infrastructure is available, is there sufficient roadway capacity, is there sufficient water and sewer, where am I going to outfall my drainage system into? Is there a public outfall to go to? And then once again, budgeting and scheduling, because probably the most important thing at the initial feasibility stage is what's it going to cost and how long is it going to take me to get completed, so that I know when I can rent up and I know when I can start serving the population that I want to serve. Also, part of the due diligence process that the owner's rep wouldn't do would be specialty studies that might be needed for the financing. The financing might require a market study. There might be the need for some initial project programming, which would be an architect would help with that. Soil testing, just to be sure that the soil has the capacity to support the structure that's being proposed. And environmental studies, to be sure that there aren't any environmental impacts from prior uses or nearby uses. The next step in the process is the entitlement. And that's where the YIGBY legislation would eliminate the need for any rezonings or land use amendments. But if that wasn't the case, there may be the need for even on the most basic level, a site plan approval. So you need a site plan approval if you need to rezone the property, if you need a land use amendment, if you're doing something that requires density bonus. A lot of local governments have density bonus programs that you can take advantage of. And some local regulations require certain densities to get conditional use approvals. There may be the need for variances to accommodate the design of the project or waivers. And one of the important things to understand is that But for YIGBY, every local government set of regulations is different and unique to that local government. There's some similarity in the sense that there's single family, there's multifamily, there's site plan approvals, and some of those site plan approvals are done by the staff level, some are done by city commission or county commission, but every one is different, and there are subtle differences, but it's important to understand those differences at the beginning so that all of those steps in the process can be incorporated into a schedule and be properly budgeted. So once the entitlements are approved, the next step, the next major milestone in a project evolution, if you will, is the final design for permitting and construction. Final design will include the structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, along with specialty designs like access control, burglar alarm, fire sprinklers, and the full civil engineering design, which will include paving, grading, drainage, utilities, and landscape planning. All the design is coordinated and supervised by the owner's representative and is necessary for both permitting, for construction, and is also necessary in some cases depending on the type of financing that you'll have. Some of the financing that would be available would require that you have permits in place before they close on the construction financing, of course. At some point during the design process and the permitting process, there's also the need to engage the services of a general contractor. The general contractor selection is often, depending on the funding, something that you have to do hard bids for. And that's just a process where you have all the design complete, you issue a notice to bid, hopefully you can invite some general contractors that you know are qualified to bid on the project, and you select based on the most responsive, responsible contractor with the lowest price. Some funding will allow you to select based on qualifications and pricing, but that's all part of that process during the design, the final design for permitting. And the owner's representative can assist to coordinate the final design, issue the request for bids or the request for contractor qualifications, and can work with you to help to not only select the designers during the beginning of the process, but also help to select the general contractor. Then when you issue the notice to bid or issue the request for contractor qualifications, it's also important to know what the funding requirements will be for the construction. If there's federal funding involved, then there'll be minimum wage rates that have to be complied with. There'll be what is referred to as Section 3 requirements, which are trying to encourage low-income folks to be part of the construction process. And then what kind of contract do we use? Some funding will require standard American Institute of Architects contracts. Some don't, but so all of these things are important to understand as you go through the process and not only select the contractor, but complete the design. Once the design is complete and ready for permitting, obviously you would submit, the builder would submit if you have a builder selected for permitting. Permitting is a process in and of itself for just the building. There's also the engineering permitting for the paving, grading, drainage, and utilities. And all of those things have to come into play when you put your budget together as well. Those are all the, so you have to know what are my permit fees, what are my impact fees, what are the utility connection fees. All of that plays into the overall project schedule and budget that I mentioned before. So your team would have all of the design completed. The contractor or the owner is submitting for the various permits. And once the permit is issued or ready to be issued, typically the project will close on the construction financing. And the owner's rep can serve as the liaison with the lender to ensure that all the documents are provided during construction, all reimbursement requests are submitted and paid. And this is assuming that I have 2 minutes. Okay, 2-minute warning. I thought I was going to be briefer than that. When you complete the permitting process, you're issuing a notice to proceed to the contractor. You're filing documents like notice of commencement so that you can be sure that any liens are properly processed. You're establishing a schedule for monthly draw requests for the owner, architect, contractor meetings so that you can regularly discuss issues with the entire development team. You want to be sure that you're getting reimbursement requests submitted to the lender at the appropriate time. And then at the end, when construction is complete, you're getting a certificate of occupancy. You're doing punch listing and releasing the final retainage to the contractor so that you can file all the paperwork that's necessary, get all the final completion documents from the municipality or the county so that you can then open and start leasing up. And at a point during that construction process, usually toward the end, toward the last couple months of it, that's when you're figuring out, okay, now how do I do the lease up? Do you have a management company? Have you partnered with a developer to figure out that element of the process? And then once you're done and you're open, there are always little things that come up that were related to the construction. But the Florida law requires that you have a 1-year warranty or that the builder provide a 1-year warranty so that if there are issues that arise during that first year of occupancy, the contractor is obligated to correct those issues under their warranty and at no cost to the owner. So I think I've covered everything. I hope I haven't gone over. That really concludes my presentation and the process for developing a project. Thank you very much.
God, when I worked with Corey, I didn't know he did all that stuff. I think we got a pretty good deal when we paid you. There are faces that you see at many of these meetings when we're talking about housing. Suzanne Cabrera, Dr. Green, myself, we're always up and talking. But a real hero in this whole fight is Jan Kranish, who is in charge of Faith in Action and who is responsible for bringing us all together today. So I'd like to bring Jan up and both thank her and have her coordinate this part of the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I'm delighted to see such a large crowd here. The one thing I'd like to do, which is our part of Faith in Action, is to introduce all of you who are from faith-based organizations. And I'm going to start. We have a special committee in our Palm Beach Leadership Academy who's working with Riviera Beach. And they have asked if we could ask any of the people from the Riviera Beach churches to please stand. Hello. Would you like to tell us who you are and what church you represent?
My name is Diane Lewis, and I represent Faith Deliverance Church.
Diane Lewis.
Diane Lewis, and I'm representing Faith Deliverance Church of God.
And they do so much in the community with a lot of delivering food. A lot of hungry people come over and see Diane, I know. Yes. Back here, these people.
Tony Drake, St. James Church, Riviera Beach. Tony Drake, St. James Church, Riviera Beach.
Wonderful.
Al Wardell, Mount Olive Church, Riviera Beach.
All right, thank you.
Belinda Smith, and I'm the pastor of Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Riviera Beach.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, do any of you have projects you're thinking of doing in housing? I know I'm putting you on the spot. All right, very good. Delighted. We want to make sure you're on the list and you get all the information. So now I'm going to ask everyone else in the crowd to please tell us where you're from, who you represent, and if you have a project that is happening, or you're thinking about doing it. I just want to make sure we have everybody so we can connect and get all of you this great information. So, would you like to start?
Michael Mayweather's pastor of Mount Carmel in Jupiter, and yes, we are in consulting in some land development of workforce housing.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think Pastor Leroy Freeman might be next.
Pass it on, pass it on.
I'm Pastor Leroy Freeman from the Morning Conquerors Life Center in West Palm Beach, and at the moment we're working with Faith in Action, and we have a tiny house already built on our property.
And we will make sure you can get a tour soon.
I'm Pastor Eric Evans with the Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church in Magnolia Park, and we're in the starting process of
Wonderful, that's great.
My name is Jezabel Maisonet. Iglesia Casa de Oración in Lakewood Recovery Church. We recently get a property that can build 8 units. So we are interested to work on that.
All right, very good. Anyone else? Yes, in front.
Pastor James Chester, West Palm Beach, Orthodox Zion Primitive Baptist Church. We are approaching the final design and getting ready to look for permits on probably 150 units.
Wow, fabulous. Fabulous. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Mike, I know you.
Hi, my name is Mike Storrow, and I'm the pastor of a church called The Gathering Place, which is a United Methodist Church in Palm Beach Gardens, and we are exploring right now.
Okay, very good.
Reverend J.R. Franklin, President of Palm Beach County Clergy Alliance, and my big role is to make sure the rest of them know about what's going on here.
And you do a good job. You do a good job, Reverend.
Hi, I'm Sheila Banks from the Bible Church of God. We're interested in building the tiny homes, so we're in the beginning stages.
Very good.
Thank you.
Hi, Pastor Steve Winston, Nativity Lutheran Church in Palm Beach Gardens, and I have about 4 vacant acres that I would love to do something with.
Wow,
So.
this is fabulous news.
Mike!
I can't tell you how exciting this is to see so many of you that are interested in doing projects. And I hope you've gotten some information now. I'm going to turn this back over to Dr. Green because I think he has some other people he would like to introduce, and then we will take a break and everyone can get together and have a chat.
Let's give Janet another big round of applause. It's so wonderful working with our Faith in Action Palm Beach County group. They've been very active in the past 5 years, and we're looking forward to many other great things to come. So I too want to make sure that we have the opportunity to get as many people to the table as possible. And so this session is being recorded today, and we will provide you with the link. What we would like for you to do, if individuals or entities or organizations were not able to make it, you can share this link with them, and we'll also follow up with a link so that if you're interested in the cohort, you can register and we can continue to work with you. So Janet took the time to introduce you to some of the faith-based organizations that are here, but if you are a part of the development community, meaning if you are some type of developer or builder, if you would just stand and introduce yourselves very quickly as well so that we can figure out how this networking thing is going to proceed, because in just a minute, we're going to shut off the mic and allow you to network, and this is going to be right after we introduce you to a group in Miami that is working to do some marvelous things with the faith-based community and have some examples to share. So before you come up, if you would just stand up very quickly and introduce yourselves, if you are a developer or tiny home developer or in the construction industry, so that people can see who you are. Let's do very quick introductions, if you will. Let's start here on this side, and then we'll go to this side.
I'm Christina Hewitt. I'm with the Community Land Trust of Palm Beach County and Treasure Coast. We are a nonprofit developer of permanently and affordable and workforce homes in the county and the Treasure Coast.
Matthew Barnes, I'm a project manager at WGI. We're a multidisciplinary design firm.
Christina Anthony.
Christina Anthony with Affordably Lavish for Builder Developers, and we focus a lot on affordable housing and workforce housing.
I'm Bill Ogden. I'm working with the Pastor Leroy and Bible Church we got and a couple other tiny homes.
Okay.
I'm Brian Messiah from KW Tiny Homes. I'm a developer. We do tiny homes from 200 to 800 square feet.
Steve Fagari from Fagari Capital and SVG Affordable. We're a West Palm Beach based affordable housing owner and developer. Looking to partner with a lot of you guys here. Thanks.
My name is Eno Gillis. I'm with Silas Construction. I do a lot of commercial, mainly residential. I've helped a lot of Habitat homes. The county reached out to me by email to come out and take a look and listen in. I've helped several churches and other things, so just trying to put it all together and introduce myself to some people.
Chris Seville, born and raised here in West Palm Beach. I'm a developer and a general contractor and owner's rep. So any projects you have in mind, anything you want to do from start to finish, even that punch list, I'm here to ask any questions you may have. I built a couple of high rises here in West Palm Beach, Flagler, so that's where my experience comes from.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Renee Ray. I'm with Randolph Construction Group. We're a trusted builder, been in business for almost 30 years. We do residential and we do commercial, and definitely have some projects that we've done right here in Riviera Beach, and would look forward to working with you on future projects.
All right, I think we got just about everyone. One other person.
Hello everyone, my name is Bianca Harris and I'm with Integrity Construction Enterprise, and we do specialize in affordable housing. We do a lot of work with the municipalities, and we are also doing a lot of work here in Riviera Beach as well.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to invite Tony to come up. He's going to have 5 minutes. Ezra, you have the clock? All right, but he's going to share some of the work that they've done in the southern part of the state, working with faith-based organizations and others to build affordable housing. And so we're really looking forward to hearing from him. And I can advance the PowerPoint slide.
Sure, thanks very much. Glad to be here. I have 5 minutes. In Miami, you have to clarify 5 American minutes is one thing, 5 human minutes is a little different. So, these are American minutes. So I know we have 5 American minutes. So we're here from Miami with my boss Bernard Fadord. We're hoping that what we've learned in Miami might be of use to some of the folks in here. I've been a developer. I was a developer for many years. When I was a younger guy, I built about 600 homes in Miami, single-family homes, townhomes. I was also 25 years a director of a bank, so I've done a bit of lending myself as well. Then I sort of retired, and then I connected with a pastor of a church in Liberty City, Miami, and for the last 13 years, I've been the pro bono executive director of the Collective Empowerment Group, a group of about 40 churches in Miami trying to do affordable housing. I thought it was going to be a slam dunk with my background, but I must tell you, in the early years, I've eaten huge quantities of humble pie. I started then because I had to start. We were a very small outfit, almost no money, no staff, so I don't advise you to do it that way. That's a hard way to do it. But in the past 2 years, we've managed to develop some traction. We're doing something that we're working. Of course, we have one project just ready to break ground, hopefully in January. We're going to be doing 37 townhomes in the on a site. We're partnered with the North Miami Church. in the West Grove of Miami, which is now a very expensive, a black area, but very expensive now, gentrified. We are on the way already. We got a grant from the city of Miami. We're working on doing a 5-story building where we're going to do 3,000 square feet of ground floor retail, 5 floors with macro condo units, and then a 4,000 square foot building for the church on the back street. What we're doing is unique in that I know very few people are trying to do what we're doing. We're trying to concentrate on affordable home ownership. I know everybody does rental when people talk about affordable housing, and we will do rental. In some cases, we're working now with a number of churches down in the Miami area. So eventually, we will do housing. When we can, rentals, we might try to do even both of them, because we are committed to this idea. We are convinced that unless we find ways to bring affordable homeownership to low-income families, particularly low-income black families, they are going to be renters and poor forever. I'm not a wealthy guy, but I bought my house more than 50 years ago. Otherwise, I'd be in Social Security. There's don't pay attention to all the financial planners that you said you got this plan, these savings things. You won't be able to maintain your standard of living unless you become a homeowner. So the solutions that we bring are quite in keeping with what the church will do, because it's an act of faith. Because we're not going to see the results in 25 years. What I'm doing now, I'm certainly not going to see the results. And I was on the board of Habitat for Humanity in Miami for many years. That's the only way to do it. Unless we find ways to do that, we are going to have people just being renters and tenants and poor forever and not financially independent. And I can tell you stories of things that I helped build as a volunteer for Habitat. Now those old little Habitat houses are being sold for land value. One of them, near a place where I was doing something, was sold for $900,000. So that family ain't poor no more. That's the only way to do it. Now, this is a complicated business, as you can imagine. We've went through the enterprise program. We've been working with enterprise community partners, doing something similar to what Suzanne described that you're going to start doing here. And it's going to be great. But I must tell you one, there's always this good news and bad news. The good news is that it's great. And I encourage you for doing that. The bad news is that once you graduate from that rigorous program of training, you're going to be graduated from real estate development kindergarten. Because there's no way that in 13 weeks of training, you're going to be able to sit down and negotiate a deal with a developer. You're going to need guys like Corey. Now, whether Corey is good or not, that remains to be seen, because there are owners rep that are great, some are so. I've dealt with architects or lawyer people that are great, some not so great. But if it's great, that is the job, that is the function that, in fact, we eventually in Miami, we're going to try to lean towards doing that sort of thing, because you need someone that's going to represent you, that is really going to have your interests at heart. My old boss, my first boss when I started, he says that, and that's almost like the slogan of what we do. He says that our projects proceed at the speed of trust. To get a black church to partner with you and to develop their site, those sites of those churches are the refuge from 300 years of oppression. To ask a church to part with that land, particularly when we do home ownership, they have to part with part of that land. It's like asking you to part with a child. I've been very humbled by this experience of learning how difficult it is to do it. There's no easy way to do it, so don't believe anybody that tells you this is going to be easy, this is going to be tough. But we've learned a lot of what we're doing, and we hope that we'll remain connected with you folks in here, and that's something of what we have done. It took a lot of effort to do it, so that I teach also real property development, a master's degree program at the University of Miami. And what I tell my students is that what I have to, my contribution is essentially so that you don't make 80% of the mistakes that I've made as a developer that could fill up a book. So if we come in here, we'll tell you, we've tried that doesn't work, why don't you try this and that? So we're hoping that we'll be a resource for you, and you will call on us, and as long as the good Lord allows me to do. I was talking to somebody else the other day that said that I'll fess up with you. And next year I turn 84. So as the lawyers say, time is of the essence. I have no time to lose. If you're interested, you reach out to us. We're going to try to help you. So we cannot help everything. We don't have all the answers. Every day I learn something new, and every day I make mistakes because I take risks. I tell my students, make sure that you make mistakes that you're taking risks and making mistakes. Because if you never make a mistake when you're learning, that means you're either perfect or there's something is wrong in there. You have to make small mistakes. I also worked for 30 years as a prison volunteer. So if you make big mistakes, I know you might wind up being my client. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. And part of the reason we wanted to introduce this group is because they may be helping with some aspects of the cohort, and so in the training aspect of it. So I just wanted to make sure that you had some face time with them. All right, with that.